The sky is falling, but don't fret. There's a ray of hope. A Rey Skywalker, that is.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
A few days ago, it was announced that Daisy Ridley would be returning to Star Wars in Star Wars Episode 10, The Rise of Rey. That's not the official title, since you can't go any higher than the top. Fans have been split on the news. Most fans were confused by this since the saga ended, but some are happy to eat whatever Lucasfilm serves them up. A big divide today is fans versus critics. Most recently, the Super Mario Bros. Movie was at the center of this phenomenon, and Star Wars is once again a part of that conversation, but for a far more nefarious reason. Critics have been a part of the movie ecosystem for a long time. Traditionally, critics were a small number of trained individuals who, for the most part, knew what they were talking about. They had integrity. Even if you didn't agree with Siskel and Ebert, you knew they were more credible than Joel down at Walgreens. Then there are the online critics. When it comes to online critics, there's always a limit to how honest they can be, because very few offer anything besides free promotion for a studio. Most online critics are legit, but there's a special place in hell for the ones we're about to talk about today, the almighty shill. A shill, also called a plant or a stooge, is a person who publicly helps or gives credibility to a person or organization without disclosing that they have a close relationship with said person or organization. Online critics shill out for early access to information and important people. They're also called the access media. They get access to exclusives because they say all the right things, and when it comes to Star Wars, the king of all shills has returned. Sorry for the cross-reference there, folks. I'm a firm believer that there's only one return, and it ain't of the king, it's of the Jedi. Bringing back Daisy Ridley is the best thing Star Wars could have done. The Skywalker has risen. What a great thing to publish on Easter. The hero of a generation is set to make her return as Daisy Ridley is confirmed to star in a new Star Wars movie as Rey Skywalker. What generation? God, they must have gotten good access for this. Oh, and they did, folks. Just wait till the end. The news came along many other Star Wars announcements during Star Wars Celebration, but there were already a few rumors making the rounds on the internet for a few months, especially after Ridley revealed on social media a visit to the Lucasfilm headquarters last December. Back then, she promised nothing saucy was happening, but fans did feel a disturbance in the Force. Now it's official, and it's also the best thing that the franchise could have done. It doesn't matter if you liked Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker or the Star Wars sequel trilogy as a whole. It does matter, jabroni. These movies are the direct lead-ins to this new one. Are we supposed to just forget how we felt about those and pony up the cash to Lucasfilm? Not in this house, shill. The fact remains that the trilogy exists and is a part of the established canon, so there's no use in criticism for its own sake, and Ridley's work was one of the best things about those movies. I think you've mistaken best for something else. Not only did Rey have to deal with the flawed legacy of the Jedi embodied in her master, Luke Skywalker, but Ridley herself had to endure a lot of harsh criticism on the trilogy, so it's only fair that she be the one to lead Star Wars back to its glory days in the theater. I'll get to the fair part in a moment. This article was written just for us. Collider will bend over for Rey, dump on Luke Skywalker, and they're delusional to boot. It's only fair that she get the film? Fair to who? The people who spent money on the other ones? Look, folks, if you hated a movie, why are you going to go pay to see the sequel? It's kind of obvious that you'll skip the follow-up to a shit show. Collider wants you to forget that you wasted up to $60 on 3 movies. And Daisy Ridley was not a part of Star Wars glory days. Those rode off into the sunset when George Lucas sold to Disney in 2012. For the sake of science and honesty, and just to stick it to these idiots, we ran the numbers. Adjusted for inflation, Star Wars, the first one, is the second highest grossing domestic picture ever. At $1.6 billion, it's only second to Gone with the Wind, a movie they tried to cancel a few years back. Star Wars The Force Awakens isn't even in the top 10. In May of 2012, this chart was released showing just how much Star Wars grossed before Disney. You can do the math, but the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for Collider's credibility. The Jedi need Daisy Ridley's Rey. In The Rise of Skywalker, Luke admits to Rey that he was wrong. Seeing their childhood idol so flawed and vulnerable left many fans angry, but Luke himself was never an assertive person. He was always looking for a reason not to do things, not to help Ben Kenobi, and when adventure called, not to finish his training with Yoda. Hold on a second, I didn't even have this part in the article planned out, but did these people ever watch Star Wars? Didn't Luke Skywalker go to Han Solo and say, come on, you know what they're up against, look who you're turning your back on. My friends, I gotta rescue them. Who the fuck wrote this shit? Let me scroll up for a second. Rey, on the other hand, was always the anti-Luke, so to speak. She's optimistic, learned how to fight and survive by herself growing up on Jakku, and knows how to fix or build things from scratch after a lifetime of scavenging old Imperial tech. Again, I don't think Julio saw the movie. Luke Skywalker was optimistic. He was the only one that believed in shit. Han Solo was the cynical one. What did Luke Skywalker say to Princess Leia after she called Han Solo a mercenary and questioned if he cared about anyone or anything? Luke's response was, I care. I think Luke cares a little more than Julio cares about accuracy, but I digress. Look, people were more upset over how Luke was done in The Last Jedi. A large portion of the audience tuned out for The Rise of Skywalker, and that's why it made about $400 million less than The Last Jedi, the film that came before it, and about $1 billion less than the film that came before that, The Force Awakens. Man, Rey's saga really put butts in seats. Ever since The Rise of Skywalker came out, Star Wars has been having trouble with its movies. Turmoil engulfed nearly every project announced. I wonder why. That's mostly because the backlash of the last 3 movies released was so widespread, no one dared to touch the franchise. No, that's not what happened. A lot of big names like Patty Jenkins lined up to make a Star Wars movie, and one lady, which we'll talk about her at the end of this video, and one lady was the reason why all these movies got canceled. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy's movie, for example, had Damon Lindelof as a writer, who left the project precisely because of the pressure that the Star Wars franchise evokes. And honestly, who can blame him after all the harassment the cast and crew of these movies had been through? Damon Lindelof brought this all on himself based on the work he's done over the last decade plus. Go watch Lost, don't watch Lost, I don't care. Daisy Ridley herself has been through a lot during her first tenure as Rey, to the point of leaving social media altogether and only recently coming back. Well, Daisy Ridley was also on record saying it wasn't just the Star Wars fans, she doesn't think people need to grow up on social media. Her words, not ours. Another person who has been under attack pretty much since taking over Lucasfilm in 2012, appointed by George Lucas himself, is Kathleen Kennedy. Being one of Hollywood's greatest filmmakers ever, she also didn't deserve all that she's been put through in terms of backlash. I can't even read this shit to the straight face. Oh my god. This is definitely the shilliest of the shill articles. Let's just fucking finish this bullshit and move on. Later in the article, they call this move brave and bold. Who the fuck is it, Batman? Look, I'm having way too much fun on this article, but the article ends with them telling us how to behave on the internet and all this other bullshit. And look, Collider wants us to behave on the internet. Collider, I just got the results of the poll back, and no one, and I mean no one, gives a shit about what you think. This whole article exists to get picked apart, which is great because all the holes in this article make Swiss cheese look solid by comparison. There's a reason I approached this video the way I did. Collider, they don't report, they attempt to corral the fan base for Disney. Articles like this don't offer any journalistic merit. We know the news, we know how popular or unpopular Star Wars has been for years. They just want to put their personal views out there and they want to rile up the fans into saying terrible things to an actress so they can report on it. But spoiler alert, it isn't gonna work. People aren't watching Star Wars. The Mandalorian is the tale of a dropping number each and every week. The Disney trilogy that Collider just swallowed for was on a downward trajectory, and the morale of the community after Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett is at an all-time low. If this was the Maury show, the lie detector would determine this article was a lie. So why lie? Isn't it going to kill your trust with the audience? No, because Collider's audience is Hollywood and how good they can make them look. What do they get in return? Access. A few years back, one of Collider's contributors, Christian Harloff, had a meltdown when he wasn't invited to Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. He cried that he put in all these years as a Star Wars fan and, well, let me just show you the clip, and then let me show you how Collider's shilling has paid off.
I'm going to address this once and then be done with it. So Frosty, Heidi, and Frank this morning. And we laughed because they said they're giving away tickets to Disneyland and Galaxy's Edge. And today I walked in and Roka's like, "Oh, here we're going to talk about Jedi Council. Was like, would you want to leave with this or Galaxy's Edge?" I go, "We're not talking about Galaxy's Edge. Yeah. Not talking about it. I'll go, you know what I'm going to talk about Galaxy's Edge in 2 years when I go. Yeah. Because am I a little butthurt? No, I'm a lot butthurt. I think that we, Jedi Council, has been one of the leading Star Wars voices for the last 5 years. Jedi Council was not invited at all. So reached out, said, hey, we really would like to promote it. We'd like to talk about it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go as a fan, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I want to go, but I'm not going to promote it anymore. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm thinking more business sense than anything else, too. If you know that there's all these shows out there, and like the sites are out there, why wouldn't you invite
You're not
Jedi
thinking
Council?
in business sense, though.
I am, though. Because there's another reason. I don't want to report on other people's reports. I don't want to say like, well, Jermaine Lucier, who goes to fucking everything, he reported on this, so I'm going to go off his report.
If you had been invited and you...
Guess what? I'm not. I've been busting my fucking ass being a Star Wars fan for 5 fucking years.
I feel
on
the
show.
same way about...
I've been called shill. I get screamed at. You know. So let this one, let me be a fucking shill for this one. Let me go and experience this fucking thing. And maybe I don't even like it, but I wanted to go.
Ooh. Maybe some of Luke Skywalker's green milk can alleviate those burns. Part of me wants to feel bad for Harloff because of what happened to him. I don't feel bad that he doesn't get to go to the park. I feel bad that after all of his hard work, he was brushed aside by the very company that he lives for, like a scorned lover. I take umbrage with his comments about busting his ass for 5 years to be a Star Wars fan. That's not what being a fan means, or is. He spent the last 5 years building a relationship with the company who owns Star Wars for perks and exclusive access. It's his job. Harloff and Collider are in the business of promoting Hollywood. They do it under the guise of being a fan. They dress like fans, they act like fans, but at the end of the day, they're an undercover commercial. Sort of like that Little Orphan Annie decoder ring. My opinions on Collider and shilling haven't changed at all. Collider is just another arm of Lucasfilm's promotional arm. Instead of getting a paycheck, they get access to the boss, Kathleen Kennedy. Take a look at this clip of Kathleen Kennedy being interviewed at Star Wars Celebration. Look at the microphone, look who's interviewing her, and now you'll see the whole picture. The build to Star Wars Episode 10, Rey's Wreck, is going to be a lot of fun. We're just a few days removed from the announcement, and the shills are already at it. Remember, folks, shilling ain't easy, and Collider has elevated it to an art form. I want to know what you think. We're not going to do 3 questions today. I just got one. What do you think of this bullshit article? I can't actually get through it without laughing. You know, there's another take of this video where I read a couple things, and it's like I inhaled Smilex gas. Fuck, love that Joker, love this bullshit. This article was the best thing I've seen in a while, and it just goes to show you the direction that Star Wars is going in moving forward to this next trilogy. Folks, if you don't want to miss out on any of this, and I know you don't because it's a good time, make sure you click subscribe, hit the join button, and check us out on all of our platforms. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and we're on Patreon where we put bonus content. So if you like this take and everything else we put out, check us out, patreon.com/worldclassbs. And if you're really feeling generous and you want to be part of the Cool Kids Club, join the membership program. It gets you exclusive access to special emojis, direct access to us, and a whole lot more, including this summer's special stream. So, folks, join us there, watch the content, have a good time, and get ready to point that finger at Lucasfilm and Collider and throw your heads back and laugh. Because no one dies in this story, they just get really big boo-boos, and Lucasfilm, they need some milk. So folks, thank you for watching. I'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other. What the fuck did I actually just read? Thanks for watching today's video. Yes, it's over, but don't cry because there's more, a lot more from World Class Bullshitters. And there's only one way to get it. Hit that subscribe button below. When you do that, you'll get notifications and updates from World Class Bullshitters every time we go live. Basically, you won't miss anything. And if there's one thing I hate, it's FOMO. But the thing most people hate more than FOMO is fear of missing out on World Class Bullshitters, because there's just some things you can't undo. So folks, do yourselves a favor and never miss anything from World Class Bullshitters. One last thing before you go, hit the thumbs up button. Not for our egos, no, they're big enough as this, but it does help us fight the algorithm here, and, well, it's man versus machine, and that's the real fight. But if that's not your battle, that's okay. There's one last way you can help WCBS, and that's going over to shopwcbs.com, picking up a t-shirt, a beer glass, a sweatshirt, a poster, all sorts of ways to back WCBS. The difference between us and other YouTube channels is I'm the artist that makes all this stuff, so if you enjoy art beyond t-shirts, you can even read our comic books. We got it all. We're called the epitome of pop culture for a reason, and no, again, it's not for our egos. So folks, make sure you're involved with every aspect of World Class Bullshitters, not just for us, but do it for yourself. We're making the change in entertainment everybody out there wants to see. And a special thank you goes out to all of our wonderful patrons who make this content possible. Go to patreon.com/worldclassbs to get involved and help out the channel.